So let's dive right in. The most recent period for which full accounting is available is the third quarter, which ended on September 30th. This report highlights third quarter figures referenced to the same quarter of the prior year. And briefly, our balance sheet assets have increased by 34.8%, gross profit decreased by 11%, membership revenue increased by 154%. Payroll expenses are up, and total expenses also have increased, and I've just messed up my slideshow. So, okay, now those of you who've heard me speak before recognize this little guy. This is the future of the Hawaiʻi Audubon Society. After many, many years of showing him, tonight he's going to grow up. So you can look forward to that. And to allay any concerns at the outset, my official conclusions after fully examining the financial records is that the Society is under proper fiscal management and the Board of Directors is exercising comprehensive and conservative oversight over operations. I found no unwelcome discrepancies, and I conclude that we are a fiscally sound organization. Yes. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank the team. Many of you may recall my prior Treasury reports, which have presented a collection of accounting tables such as this one, which is adored, worshipped by CPAs, CFOs, and people like that. The rest of us look at this, and this is the way we feel. So this year, I'm going to head in a different direction with a series of summary charts that compare current year trends with those of the prior year. So starting with income, most of the revenue to the Society comes from donations, followed by sales and memberships. These plots give a clear picture of the predominance of donations. The amounts of income from different sources vary each quarter, and large donations in particular can lead to proportional changes. Let's see, I'm having a hard time with this here. Well, anyway, it leads to proportional changes in the sectors. So let's take a closer look at the donation bar graphs. And you can see here that 2023 was unusual because for the most part, larger donations tend to occur towards the end of the calendar year due to donors' year-end tax-giving strategies. Thus, while the current year seems to lag last year's donation receipts, prior total year-on-year donation levels have been relatively stable in the recent past, and I anticipate that trend is going to continue. Let's go. There we go. Turning to sales, the current year had a slow start, but more recent sales have exceeded prior year revenues for the past 2 quarters. Current total sales lagged 2023 by about 15%. Since the pandemic, sales have been recovering, and last year's total amount got up to just under $54,000 in sales alone. The final major component of our income is membership revenue. At the start of the current year, we implemented targeted outreach through social media and public events with the goal of growing our membership. This chart shows the success of those efforts, with current membership revenue exceeding last year's third quarter by 154%. We are continuing and expanding these efforts. Now, gross profit, now that we're on totaling up the income side, gross profit is simply all revenue prior to subtraction of expenses and costs of goods sold. And this is definitely a feel-good index. On the other hand, it's also useful to look at, not because it makes you feel good, but more because it's not affected by stochastic variables, such as timing of financial events. So it offsets and it offers reliable comparative value in any fiscal analysis. The difference in gross profit that appears in this chart is entirely due to the previously noted large donation received in the first quarter. In the first quarter of 2023. This chart closely resembles the previous shown donation graph, which is not surprising given that donations make up the majority of our income. So that rounds out the income side of the story. Next, we'll look at expenses. Our greatest expenditure then is payroll, which last year comprised over half of our total spending. Other expense categories are many and varying in amount, but it's particularly noteworthy that the second largest item last year doesn't even appear on this year's report. For the first time, Hawaiʻi Audubon has completely eliminated outside professional services, and we now perform all of our bookkeeping, all of our accounting, and other professional services with either in-house expertise or volunteer services for which we are eternally grateful. The current payroll reflects additional staffing noted previously that focused on public outreach, and we anticipate that similarly we're going to have additional payroll for the fourth quarter as well. Other expense categories include rent, website, internet, and program support, along with many other smaller cost items, all of which are important in and of themselves and collectively. However, in the interest of time, I'm only going to touch on one particularly interesting program, the special events category that covers our Alaska Kolea tours. We've now organized 2 very successful Alaska trips with Wally Johnson to view Kolea in their summer foraging and breeding habitats. These unfold financially as mostly second quarter credits that are participant payments, followed by third quarter expenses for the trips themselves. And the actual numbers for this year, last year, are over here, expenses up here and credits there, and similarly for this year. Summing up the expense side of the ledger, to date we're running 10.5% above the third quarter expenses of 2023. The biggest differences are lower income from the Kolea trip in the second quarter and slightly higher education and public outreach expenses in the current quarter. Finally, combining all the income and expense categories provides the net income through quarter 3. At this time in 2023, we were running a deficit of $12,883, and this year that deficit has increased to $37,322, a jump of 37.9%. Now, at first glance, you might think this is a cause for panic, but before you start running for the doors, recall my earlier remarks considering the timing of large donations. This shows the quarterly distribution of donations for 2023 in blue and 2024 in orange. I mentioned previously that it's not uncommon for major donors to make their gifts towards the end of the calendar year as a tax strategy. Last year's fourth quarter donations led to a cash surplus at the close of 2023 of over $113,000 that remains in untapped reserves in the bank. The Society can easily balance the accounts at any time using these reserves. So that concludes my report, which has taken so long that the young bird watcher that I've shown for so many years has taken the time now to grow up. And there he is. And so mahalo nui loa. Now let's get on with the really fun part of the show.